I'm not asking you guys to do anything just yet. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about where the idea of creating a page about yourself is coming from, and that it's a really great way to focus in on what your lookbook is going to look like in the future. So I'm going to just read to you guys what some of the other participants today are saying about what they thought. So some of you are saying that they look really great, that they're excited to do one themselves. Some people think that they were very accomplished, and it made you think about what you are about. Somebody thinks that it might look kind of difficult. Then somebody actually thinks that perhaps the story behind the jewelry designer is quite beautiful, but maybe a little bit too long. And the other one was more simple and but a great reflection on the design. So what we see here is this beautiful collage of her, and she has pictures of herself as a baby, and then she started with a lot of these flowery embellished clips. It's a lot of text here. It's like a lot to read, but everywhere you find these adornments, they are very much about how she started out. And the reason I put this in here is because I wanted you to see how perhaps your lookbook can flip, and yours can actually flip with moving pages, and that's what we're gonna do in the last week. Hers kind of just switches the entire screen. There's a couple of effects in here, such as this heart that has the text in there. But what the main thing here is, there's a lot of layering, but the length of it for what the warm-up purpose today is too much. So here, Gina Alexander is actually somebody I worked with briefly. I think it's very beautiful how she incorporated her personal life. So she puts that in here along with all this beautiful decoration. Hopefully I'm getting some of you to share this with us at the end of today, what you have done. Considering that perhaps you don't want to put in too much personal information. Maybe it can end up on your website, because nowadays people really want to know who they work with. I wanted to give you a couple more ideas of books and inspirations. There's a book called 200 Projects to Get into Fashion Design. And if you go to the Look Inside option, and if you go onto page 13, there is something called Personalize Your Sketchbook. And it says here your sketchbook is going to make an individual statement about you and your ideas. To start by making it personal. And it says here, gather a collection of materials that are special to you, such as photographs, friends, family. And you can read over this yourself, but it's just kind of a guideline if you wanted more in depth of what you could do with this personal project. I think the first examples are something that, if done right, it can definitely highlight who you are as a designer and as a person altogether, and it can be something that you can put on your website or part of your portfolio even. And this book here, if I look at some of these examples, they're more kind of like your history, less visually attractive to people that are trying to find out how you and your business work together. Okay, so there's another one. This book, I don't know if there's an American version of it, but I bought it while I was in Paris. And it was just so cute, and it's all made out of these collages. And if I just go over here, the outside of it, when we are on Amazon, it looks a little bit dated and old because they use a lot of these older patterns and buttons, and it's very vintage. However, when you open up the book, and I think they're missing out on the look inside, because I just took a picture on the inside. Each page is just filled with fabrics and trims, and there's this little cartoonish looking figure that kind of guides you through the story of the book. It's all in French, and I really don't speak a lot of it. And but it's just still so beautiful. And the reason I'm giving you all these is because what we're creating today is sort of a collage. And a lot of times to look at a lot of collages gives you a lot of ideas on how to create your layout and kind of what to take from other people, but then obviously do it with your own images. Now the last one is actually a book that seems really crazy, and I don't know how many of you ever heard of this movie called Grey Gardens, but the book for this is a page after page of collages. And while this might not have anything to do with fashion, which the other two do, this definitely has to do with Photoshop and how to put together collages. This one here is very inspiring to me because it really helps you to see that it doesn't almost matter if you put the most random things together, it ends up looking beautiful. Or if you take one thing and change it just a little bit, and you'll have to check that out if you're in a library, or you can find it somewhere else. And then somebody knows the movie actually and says, oh yeah, the crazy lady was very stylish. And if you've never heard of this movie, I tried watching it and I couldn't go further than maybe the first 30 minutes. But it is definitely something special. What I'm going to do is I just scanned in and took pictures of things that I really like as a designer, and I'm going to combine it with a picture of myself. Then I'm going to take it into Illustrator. So what I'm going to do first is in Illustrator, I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to set up one artboard, and I'm going to make this a tabloid. And the layout for mine is going to be, if I look at my orientation here, it's going to be landscape. I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm just going to go ahead and open up some of these other images. And for those of you who are a little newer to Photoshop, when you press Control, and that's Command on a Mac, you can highlight multiple images and skip some images so that you really just open the ones that you want, but you don't have to continuously go back and say File, Open, File, Open, File, Open. I'm a lingerie designer, and to me, I'm also a book lover. I love colors. I love graphic design and any type of sort of appliques, embroideries, vintage type of lingerie, modern type of younger, glitzy, any type of texture, graphics mixed with embroideries and appliques. And I also love music. And this is actually a little panty that I designed with notes, and I just had to take a picture of it. So anything that I could find that I kind of think maybe visually will look good together, I just kind of open it up in Photoshop. And some of these components I'm gonna make into brushes inside of Illustrator, and I have to clean them up before I start. Alright, so I'm gonna work with this picture here. So I just opened it up in Photoshop. I'm just gonna go ahead and rotate that and clean this up a bit. And this is going to be just part of my image. I'm just gonna select this with my rectangular marquee tool. I'm just gonna set this up to have no feather here. So in my options, I set it to 0. I'm gonna just press copy. I'm gonna copy this right into Illustrator. So just copy and then paste. And here I like that texture a lot, so I'm just gonna make this pretty big. Okay, so right now here in Illustrator, I really do not care that I'm going over the border, because I'm going to later on create this clipping mask to make everything fit. And while I'm talking about that, let me just create a big rectangle. So I'm in Illustrator now. I'm going to take my rectangle tool and just click and drag over the area that I want to keep. And then I'm going to say select all. Once I say select all, object, clipping mask make, and that would be Command 7 or Control 7. So you can see here how it clips that right away. And I move this a little bit over. So you have to select 2 items. Whatever is on the bottom is going to get clipped. You can then use your direct selection tool to still move things around within your mask. And then what I want to do is just create like a nice gradient on top of that to take the color out. So if I go to Window and if I go to Gradient, I can edit that a little bit further. The first gradient I'm going to start with is the basic one that is pretty much our default that we have here on the bottom. And when we use our gradient tool right here, we can actually edit this live and kind of move this around, stretch it out, and look at the orientation of gradient. So we have one end here. When you move your cursor on the outside of that, you can see that little rotate symbol. And in correspondence to this, we have also our gradient box right here, where we can add different boxes on the bottom that can then be filled with different colors, which you can just drag from the swatch box on top of the gradient bar. So if I click on this box right here, and if you see that I'm moving this, it actually corresponds to our left over here. So then if I wanted to review my picture, I could actually change the opacity on the opposite side. Now with this opacity itself, we can see that our picture itself still has all that color in there. So even in Illustrator, if I click on a JPEG, I should be able to go to Edit Colors and say Convert to Grayscale.